So today we're going to dive into this story about shifting currents. On one hand, you've got this huge crisis unfolding on the world's oceans. But on the other, there's a much deeper conflict, one that's happening right inside all of us.
You know, when we think about peace, we usually picture quiet, silence, right? But what if real peace isn't about escaping the noise? What if it's about finding stillness right in the middle of all the chaos? Because let's be honest, right now, the world is incredibly noisy. Okay, so there's this crisis unfolding at sea. You probably haven't heard much about it. It feels a world away. But here's the crazy part, and it's a little unsettling, actually. The effects of this thing? They're already quietly making their way to your home, to every single one of us.
All right, let's get into it. Section 1, a crisis at sea. This whole thing kicks off in what's essentially a massive bottleneck for the entire planet.
So I want you to focus on this number, 250. Why? Because that's how many massive ships are just stuck. They're basically parked in the waters off West Asia, either unable or, maybe more importantly, unwilling to go anywhere.
So where exactly is this happening? It's all centered around the Strait of Hormuz. And get this, at its narrowest point, it's only 33 kilometers wide. That's it. It's like the one single doorway for a massive room, in this case, the Persian Gulf, to connect to the entire world ocean. Its importance, you just can't overstate it.
Now here's the key thing to understand. These ships aren't damaged. The strait isn't blocked by, a fallen bridge or something. No, this is a crisis of something else entirely. It's about tension. It's about fear. It's about people doing math on risk. These ships are just waiting because moving forward has suddenly become way too dangerous or expensive.
Okay, on to our next section. We're talking about the global supply chain grinding to a halt. And this isn't some abstract economic idea. This goes from those giant tankers right to the food on your dinner table.
Just to give you a sense of scale, almost 20%, that's 1/5 of the entire planet's oil supply has to squeeze through that one tiny channel. So when it gets clogged up, the energy that powers, everything, it starts to slow down too. And look, it's so much more than just oil. Think about it. The oil and gas for our cars, sure, but also the phone in your pocket, the parts for new cars, even the food you're going to buy at the store later. So many of those everyday things are just sitting out there, floating in the water, going nowhere.
So yeah, this isn't just traffic jam. It's much bigger than that. It's like the entire backbone of the global economy has been flash frozen.
All right, Section 3, this is where it gets personal. The cost of all this, it's coming for you. Every delay has a price, and that bill is heading straight for our wallets.
Okay, check this out. Before all this kicked off, insuring just one ship for one trip through that area cost about $250,000. Now, that number is expected to shoot up to $375,000. That is a huge jump. We're talking over 30%, practically overnight.
So you might be asking, who eats that cost? Well, nobody wants it. It gets passed along like a hot potato. The shipping company passes it to the trader. The trader passes it to the distributor to the store, and guess who's at the end of the line? Yep, you and me, the consumer.
So the bottom line here is pretty simple. All those ripples from those 250 ships stranded at sea, they eventually turn into a wave that hits us right at the gas pump and at the grocery store checkout.
So, okay, we've talked about the what, the where, and the how this is all going to affect us. But that's not the whole story. To really get what's going on, we have to dig a little deeper. We have to ask, what's the real reason this is happening? And that brings us to Section 4, the war within. This is where we shift gears. We're moving away from ships and supply chains and turning inward to look at the human mind.
The source material we're looking at draws this really fascinating parallel. On the one hand, you have the outer problems, right? The ships, the geopolitical drama, the economic mess. But on the other hand, it points to the inner causes, things like greed and fear and this constant clinging to power. The suggestion is that these feelings are the real seeds of the crisis.
And this really is the central point. The idea is that the chaos we see out there in the world is just a mirror. It's reflecting the chaos that's already inside our own minds. The wars between countries are just a bigger version of the battles we all fight with ourselves every single day.
It really boils down to this. Our collective mindset shapes our collective reality. So if enough of us are driven by greed, the result is going to be widespread suffering. It's cause and effect. And when fear goes viral, well, the natural outcome is instability for everyone.
So what do we do about it? That brings us to our final section, a path to peace. Because if the root of the problem is internal, then maybe, just maybe, the solution is too.
Look, you and I can't go out there and move those ships. We're not going to be negotiating any peace treaties. But while the whole world is holding its breath, full of anxiety, there is something we can do. The suggestion is to use this time to actively work on creating the exact opposite feeling inside ourselves.
And this isn't some vague idea. There are actual principles here. Things like guarding your mind, being careful about what you let in, actively working to want less stuff, making a point to act with compassion, really trying to understand cause and effect, and maybe most importantly, practicing non-harming in everything you think, say, and do. This, apparently, is the real work.
And so all of this leaves us with a really powerful final question. And it's not really about the ships anymore, is it? It's about us. In times like these, when the world feels loud and chaotic and unstable, how do you keep your mind peaceful? What's your practice for staying grounded?